We are back with the author of this amazing book, Love, Let Go, Laura Sumner TRUAX, a pastor of a church in Chicago that gave each member $500 with a simple request: do something good. So Laura, we stopped at the story of Steve, and as I was reading Steve's story in the book, I told my husband, I turned to him, I was like, this is amazing, because what I saw in Steve's story is, yes, he was once homeless, but he didn't forget where he came from. And I love the point that you made in the book, is that he could have bought new clothes and you would have been okay with that. You wouldn't have argued with that. He could have, you know, gotten a hotel room, but he chose to go back to the community that he once was a part of and say, yeah, I see you and I want to bless you. That is truly generosity.
It truly is. And I think that embodies a lot of the truths of generosity, that generosity starts where you are. And Steve was formed by this community of guys. And you're right, that was his connection point to them. We had some other stories like that. There was a woman, or is a woman, who lives right across from this church in subsidized housing, and worked as a seamstress her whole life. And she came to me, she said, Pastor, I have a heavy heart. She said, I really want to do what the Lord wants me to do with this money. And every time I pray about it, I think about my niece. Well, her niece was the first one in her entire extended family in forever to go to college. And she was in nursing school, and she was on a huge scholarship but didn't have the cash for her books. And this is her aunt who said, do you think the Lord would be okay if I gave her this money to pay for her books? And I said, wow, Jeleanor, I think so. Let's inquire, you know. And it was the pride that she felt in being able to bless her niece in this way. Another woman who had a neighbor who lost a son to violence on Chicago streets, happened shortly after she got her check, and felt like, I have the resources to pay for this young man's funeral. You know, so that we had those immediate stories like that. And then we had some really savvy stories. An engineer who is also an attorney, and he got several people to match his $500, and then he got a group in Chicago to match that group's match. And now he's got a scholarship fund set up for Chicago Public High School seniors who are going on into engineering. And I mean, innovation.
Yeah.
It was people who gave to the things they knew, and right where they were at, and that's where generosity starts, I think.
And this is the thing, in Love, Let Go, you use the story of LaSalle to kind of weave in this idea of generosity, and the fact that we have lost this idea of generosity. And I love the fact that you challenge the church, how do we get back to knowing who we are? And the disappointment in the fact that people are hesitant when others are generous. And I love this point that you make about the saturation point.
How about that?
Explain that to us.
Well, the saturation point is, there's all this work and research on how do we perceive that we are well off, or satisfied with our well-offness, right? And in story after story, study after study, it's 10% more. We gauge how well off we are based on how well our neighbor is doing. It's not an objective measurement, it's a felt measurement from those around us. And consistently, when people are asked, no matter whether they're making $1 million or $55,000 a year, it's always, I need about 10% more. That hunger, that ache to just have a little bit more. And God's answer to that is generosity. God's answer to that is, you have enough, and let me show you. Let me show you how much you have. You know, just give. Give to those around you. Paul has that powerful statement in 2 Corinthians. It's kind of the fundraising chapter of that letter, where he tells the church that your need is for their surplus. Their surplus is for your need. You know, there's this bigger economy going on out there, and it's what Jesus saw so well. You know, God is always working, and there's this whole other narrative that's going on, and it's a narrative of plenty, a narrative of surplus, and we have settled for lesser narratives. You know, we've settled for these small stories, and God keeps saying, oh, lift up your eyes. You have so much. You know, let me show you how much you have. Just give to the person next to you, and watch what doesn't happen in you, you know?
And you saw that happen at LaSalle, where you actually started a movement. And now you're seeing people are constantly giving. And I think this is the saturation point, right? People are looking around saying, yeah, maybe I do have enough.
Yes.
Maybe I can give. I don't need that. I don't need that.
Right.
But I need to continue to give.
Right. And what happens when we give? That's that social science piece. It's only confirming what God's told us all along. When we give on every measurement of well-being, we flourish. It's a superpower. We are happier, we have greater purpose, we feel a greater sense of connection, we feel a greater sense of peace. In fact, according to this research at Notre Dame, there's even a link that they're exploring between longevity and generosity.
Wow.
Well, what is that? But like God's word coming to life and saying, see, you know, what do I need to do to you guys to prove that you can live generously, you can live open-handedly? It's okay. Go ahead.
And the story hasn't ended. You continue to give away a lot of that $1.6 million.
That's right.
And I love the fact that you actually even gave away to other churches.
Yes.
And so you're going to have to pick up this amazing book. Our time is up. Love, Let Go, Radical Generosity for the Real World. If you're just even delving into just understanding what generosity is, and let me tell you, this whole idea of the saturation point really resonated with me. You're going to want to get your copy. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us.
Thanks. What a treat. Appreciate it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.